Hello, beautiful soul family. Britt Cannon here, host of the Walk On Podcast, the podcast where I try to demystify spirituality, personal growth and healing, and whatever else I feel like talking about. This week's episode is all about the law of attraction. I love this topic. It's also synchronistically episode 88, and you know, 8s are all about karma and manifestation and completion. So it feels appropriate. It's also really cool when the numbers work out like that. Learning about this topic several years ago, the first time I heard about it, I was like, that's fucking bullshit. An ex of mine, his parents, they were watching that, like, I think it was like in the 1980s. Maybe the book The Secret came out in the 80s and they made a movie about it at some point, and they were watching the movie about it and it was just on in the background, and I was like, that is totally wackadoo. Like, no offense, but yikes. And so that was my first introduction to it, and I was just like, oh, that's something like delusional people believe in, because I was deep in my skepticism and my atheism, and I was like, there's no rhyme or reason to any of this, and like, life just sucks and then you die. I'm so hardcore. And then I started getting into witchcraft, and I was reading this really great book on witchcraft, and she talks, I think it's Lee DeAngelis or Liz DeAngelis, something like that. It's in the books that helped me heal episode, so go back and listen to that if you want to hear more about that book. But she really focuses on visualization and like teaching you how to meditate. And that's because a lot of spell work is essentially manifestation, where you like, you know, you do the ritual aspect of the spell to put you in a trance-like meditative space so that you can visualize what you want to happen, what you want to manifest. And through that practice, I became really fucking good at visualizing. And then I started exploring manifestation. I think that synchronicity, I didn't get into this in the full episode. Oh, before we get too deep, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, you know, tell me how you feel about the topics in the comments. There's a bunch of links in the description below to check out some of my other stuff. Do the whole YouTube dealio. And also the full episode is down there if you want to check out an hour about this topic and all my topics. Synchronicity, I think, is a kind of manifestation. Like, it is a kind of energy manipulation, because it is a bridging the gap between you and the universe, right? Like, it is a form of communication, but it just is one that, like, we don't feel like we have control over. Like, it's not always something you're doing consciously, which was the case with me. I was throwing my tarot cards just to like get to know them and for funsies. Like, I wasn't taking it seriously. I was just like, I got these as a gift and now I'm playing with them all the time. And I would get messages that later in the day someone else would say to me. Like, I would read it in my tarot card description book. I would be like, oh, that hits home. And then later it would come out of someone's mouth and I'd be like, oh, it's freaking me out, man. And this started happening in more and more and more areas. And then I started learning about like angel numbers and that kind of synchronicity. And then I started learning about communicating with loved ones who've passed. And then I started, just like, then in my dreams, there would be symbolism that meant a lot in communicating about where I was at my life in those moments and questions I had about the path forward. And then animal symbols, just like nonstop opened me up to this world of like communication between me and the spirit realm. And that's not even to get into once it became a conscious process later and I could actually like physically in my mind's eye convene with them and meet them and communicate with them more directly. But I think those early days of synchronicity were really wild and really poignant in my own life and my own journey, because it showed me that like more was going on than met the eye at that time. Like it was too often and too overwhelming to really argue with. And I think that's what I needed. I needed like strong signs because I was in deep denial about my own spiritual power and deep denial of the universe and their infinite presence, and also love and guidance for me. So I think that synchronicity is like a doorway. Like it opens you up to the possibility. And then once you become aware of the signs and you start paying attention to them, you can start asking for them. You know, you can start manifesting in a more conscious way, in a more like timely way. Like you can ask for a sign in the morning and you'll get it at lunchtime. Like it happens pretty quick. And it's even got to the point with me where like I will be writing in my journal and something will be playing on the TV and the person on the TV will say the exact phrase that I'm writing in my journal. So it's like instant. So that's always really fucking cool. But as far as like physically actually manipulating energy and manifesting things, that has been quite the journey. I mean, I think the most powerful part about it is a self-empowerment aspect. So whether you believe in the magic side of things or not, there is still something really powerful about realizing that you have a choice. You know, you have a choice to leave a bad relationship or even just an unfulfilling relationship. You have a choice to leave a job you hate. You have a choice to end a friendship. You have a choice to speak to or not speak to people who make you feel good or don't make you feel good. Like you have a say in what happens to you. And I think especially for people who've been victimized, especially in childhood, there is kind of a like learned helplessness or a lack of empowerment that you're used to because you didn't have a say in what happened to you. You didn't have a choice in the matter. You know, if your parent wanted to stay with their abuser, you couldn't go anywhere else. You were stuck there too. And so I was very much stuck in a place of disempowerment, in a lack of autonomy, and just like constantly feeling like, you know, why is this happening to me? Or like my life sucks. Or if I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. And like these are things that I just don't think anymore. Like it's just not part of my inner monologue at this point in my life, even though like my luck isn't always great, you know, even though bad things still happen to me, it's just not like it's not a narrative that I subscribe to anymore. And I think that even from a practical earthly level, there's something to that. And speaking on the practical earthly level, you know, with manifestation, you have to sit and like clarify your goals, your dreams, your desires, and the things that you'd like to let go of. Like this process of becoming really clear and like even writing them out in scripting form or like listing them or meditating on them in your own mind, like just pondering these questions. What would make me happy? What do I want out of life? Where are my goals? Where do I want to go next? Like even just thinking about these things and considering these things brings them into a clearer focus. And I think that on just a practical level, that can be really helpful to anyone, like whether you believe in magic or not, whether you believe in manifesting or not. I mean, how often do we really sit and consider these things in our lives? We're not really taught to worry if we're happy or not. We're not really taught to ask ourselves if we're feeling fulfilled. Even in like relationships, you know, I feel like I haven't been in that many relationships where the conversation of like, how am I doing as a partner? You know, is there anything I could like step up? Are you feeling loved by me? Are you feeling connected to me? That's only something that I started learning how to do like a handful of years ago, because that's just not, you know, it's sort of like in a world that asks so much of us, that asks us to like put our humanity, put our emotions, put our needs, put our like intuition on the back burner. You aren't really like encouraged to consider where you're at, where you want to be going, how you feel, what your integrity is, what your core values are. Like these are just things that aren't really available for us to consider until we learn that they are, that we should. And for a lot of people, it's like not too late, but it happens at a point where there's a lot of grief and sadness and like, oh damn, I should have asked myself these questions so much sooner than this moment. So I think it's a really important practice regardless of how you feel about the magical aspects and components. But if you are into the magical aspects and components, getting really clear on them is half the battle, really. Because if you are kind of like wishy-washy about what you want, if you're like, I want my art to pay my bills, and then you're like, but I don't think I can do it, or maybe I could try something else though, or you have that doubt inside you, and so you aren't super clear. Like, I think that people are afraid to admit what they really want. And if you could make yourself a little bit brave, and this is even internally, like even to themselves, they're just like, I want a career in art, but I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's available to me. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't have what it takes. I'm too old. I started too late. I didn't come from a rich family. Like, I mean, I've definitely come up against these narratives as well. But like, it's like in your own imaginatorium, in your own brain space, in your own sacred, like, meditation room inside your mind, no one's there to tell you not to dream big. Like, no one's there to tell you to shit all over your good time. You know what I mean? Admit it to yourself at least. You can't get it if you don't admit you want it. And so admit you want it, get really clear, take that doubt away. One of the like secrets of manifestation is being a little bit delusional. Like, you have to picture yourself in the role where you want to be. You have to picture yourself as that person with those things. Like, that's why when we do affirmations, we say I am, and not I am going to or I want. We say I am abundant, I am clear. I am free. I feel free every day. I am living the life I dream of. I have a healthy, loving, romantic, passionate partnership. I spend more time with my kids. I am a great friend. I have a fulfilling life. Like, that's why we word it that way, as if it's already happening. Because energetically, you're aligning yourself, you're aligning your energy to where you want to be. It always reminds me of like, dress for the job you want. Like, dress for the job you want. Get your energy aligned with where you want to be. That clarity of mind and that focus can really clear away the cobwebs and like the distractions, and focus you like on your path. It's almost like, there's like all these weeds and like ivy and stuff in the path. And so you can't even really see where you start off, in the journey, in the hero's journey of your own life. But as you focus and you get clear, you can kind of like Prince Philip in Sleeping Beauty? Like, you take your sword out and you're just like slashing at the weeds and they recoil, and then you're like, oh shit, there's my fucking path. And now all I have to do is walk down it. The other thing is, once you align yourself with the energy of where you want to go, as if by magic, but it's a lot more practical than that, you start taking steps in that direction. Like, once you become clear and you're like, this is what I want, instead of throwing a dart and it being like, like a balloon that's running, that's letting the air out. If you're really clear, you can throw that dart directly towards the board, and it's much more likely to land, And so you can start moving yourself in that direction. And I think that one of the hangups that I have, especially, I think everyone has, but like, I've really struggled with this one, is sort of like too much big picture thinking. So I think like, oh, I want to do this and this and this and this and this with my life, and like, I'm so far from there. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know how it's going to happen. This is what I need, and it's nowhere in sight, and blah, blah, blah. Nothing's going to work out for me, which was very real at the time. Like, it felt very true at the time because it was, but I didn't know what was around the corner. You know what I mean? And neither do you. And so I was just very downtrodden and like negative about it. And then, but in the meantime, I still kept taking action because I learned my affirmation became one little step at a time. So every day I did a little thing to get me closer to where I want to go. And there's, the goal is always moving. Like you achieve launching a podcast and then you want to write a book and then you finish the book and then you want to make an album and then you make an album and then what do you want to do next? That's where I am at. So as I check something off and then I'm on to the next thing. And so there's always just one little step at a time. And then you get into this beautiful flow state where like sometimes I have this like out of body experience when I interact with the art I have made where I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I made that. Like it didn't feel like work because when you're in alignment, the work just flows through you. It didn't feel like even this conscious thing. It felt like it just poured out of me. It didn't feel like a grind. It didn't feel grueling. It felt beautiful and just like living. And here comes the art. And that's also because I really respect my own process. And I'm also very lucky in the sense that I've been able to make it work having very little money. So I've always chosen like making my art over being like having enough money. I just kind of like scrimp and save and scrounge and struggle because to me, like a financially secure life where I didn't have time to make art is like the worst thing, I need a life full of art and the financial security can either like come or fuck off. I don't care. Like I'm loving what I'm doing. So I will often choose like part-time work over full-time work so that I have time to do the thing I love the most. That is my ultimate goal. And that's what I'm talking about the clarity and the focus. Not saying that this is available for everyone or option for everyone. It's just my journey. Yours may be totally different. But just, this is the vibe. This is the way of manifesting.